Courtesy of the official PlayStation magazine, we now have a hefty chunk of Assassin's Creed Valhalla information to sit through. So naturally I thought that's plenty information to make a video on, and give my opinion on the points as I deem necessary as we go. It's odd how this much information is circulating even before we've seen any actual proper gameplay, and I honestly don't know how to feel about that, but honestly I don't think it'll matter come the end anyway, so let's just get cracking into all this information. Firstly, the game is primarily a Viking fantasy in a similar sense to how Black Flag was a pirate fantasy. Early in the game, Ava will meet an assassin, and then Ava will learn of the Order of Ancients. Now they're relating this game a lot to Black Flag. Now Black Flag had ample Assassin's Creed elements, it did have its problems of course, but at least we know that Assassin's Creed elements will indeed be present. Darby McDevitt said they want fans to be able to wander through the world and at almost every turn really feel like they're discovering something that increases their knowledge of the universe. This makes me feel like the open world design will be quite deliberate, in the sense that a lot of things will be present for a reason, and it will give you a lot of insight into the lore of Assassin's Creed. As a result, we may see an in-depth open world worthy of exploring, and as we're all aware, nothing gives me greater pleasure than exploring a really rich open world. It doesn't necessarily have to be relevant at all times, it just needs to be detailed. Speaking of detail in the open world, we can visit Stonehenge and climb on the rocks if you want to, I guess, but you can also uncover its secrets and the ancients who built it. I like the idea of a historical mystery as much as anyone else, and Stonehenge is perfect for that. Now the game supposedly has connections with the other Assassin's Creed titles before and after. I do suppose this is a furthering of the point that Assassin's Creed Valhalla will be something of a culmination of all the games that came before it, at least of some sort, though we know that the franchise is certainly not over. I mean, if it's connected to the other games, then that's a good thing, because one of my biggest issues with some of the Assassin's Creed titles is they just don't feel relevant to one another. If this game can help assign relevance to those games without resorting to a cheap retcon, then I suppose it's good enough. The game will supposedly bridge the gap between the Hidden Ones and Order of Ancients and the Assassins and Templars, which is confusing to me. Does that mean we'll go in and there'll be the Hidden Ones and the Order of Ancients, and then we'll go out and there'll be the Assassins and Templars? As the only place where that would make sense to actually happen would naturally be the Crusades. As we know, they're known as the Assassins and Templars by the Third Crusade. I think I'm just hopeful that whatever they do, it makes sense. Apparently, once settled in England in the game, players can choose to raid or build alliances. Now, building alliances can help subdue the land, which I suppose is a fancy way of saying make it safer. In the original article, it actually looks like subdue means the violent option. And furthermore, players can use the map to scan for places to raid or trade. Furthermore, players may meet tribes still worshipping England's pagan gods. It's stuff like that that adds a lot of flavour to the open world. So as minor as it may be, it will be useful in the world building aspect. Apparently, there will be no fetch quests with characters who will disappear after you're done. Now I'm hopeful that means there won't be any fetch quests whatsoever, because they're boring, but it sounds like it actually means there'll be no errand quests for characters who disappear after you complete them. So maybe you'll run the odd errand for a character, but it won't be the only time that you meet them. I'd rather just not do fetch quests at all, so I'm going to be hopeful that this means that there won't be any. But I know when I'm being too optimistic. Sort of as an advancement on that point, side quest characters will remain in the world and may move to your settlement. So side quests can be relevant to building up your settlement, I guess giving you a little bit of incentive to go out and explore. Darby McDevitt describes the game's narrative as a flower petal structure. The player leaves the settlement, spends time in the world and comes back. Each adventure would be a petal within the flower of the narrative. Some quests adopt a Shakespearean 5-act structure, so I guess this means a story arc will be divided into 5 parts, in a few circumstances, and saying that outright would just be too dull. Moving on, Alfred the Great will go on a personal journey in this game as well. He will be an antagonist, but he's not a villain. So what I presume this means is, towards the start of the game, Alfred will be something of an enemy. We'll encounter him a few times, and he'll oppose us. All the while, he's undergoing his own development, and likely towards the end of the game, the realization will be that Alfred was never the enemy. Maybe he'll become an ally, maybe he'll lose relevance, maybe they'll do something else with the character. He's likely not the main antagonist, as he's not a villain. It'll be someone else. Who's this I like more complex characters in games like this, so it's pleasing to read that Alfred the Great won't be a black and white character. We've just got to hope that the game handles it well. The game will apparently feature vertical navigation in Saxon places such as London, Jorvik, which is now known as York, and Winchester. I presume this is just a fancy way of saying that you can climb things. Why is it that everyone has to use a fancy term? If you can climb shit in the cities, just say that you can climb shit in the cities. If it means anything else, I couldn't tell you. But I mean, obviously we'll have climbing and parkour back. The extent at which it is back remains to be seen. Apparently the game will also feature Roman ruins, which makes sense. By this point, the Romans have been and gone. Maybe the city I was born in will show up as the ruins of some little Roman town. It's in England and it existed, so I suppose that's one thing. But I doubt they're going to put every place that existed in England in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, even if it is a map of the entirety of the country. That would just be absurd amounts of work, but I'm still hopeful, you know. Moving on, mythology will be treated more like how it was handled in Origins than in Odyssey, where gods exist through the belief of the characters, which is good. This game seems to be a bit more down to earth. Odyssey was way out of the box, so it's good that they've taken a step back and realised that mythology is better off just as mythology. Obviously, they still have creative freedom with it. I mean, Origins didn't just go, the gods exist in the minds of the characters, and leave it at that. They had, like, hallucinations and things, and it was rather cool. I feel like this is a wiser way to handle mythology in Assassin's Creed. It's subtle, it's part of the mystery, it's not some absurd boss fight. When it comes to this franchise, I feel like that realism creates a better experience. Moving on, apparently every piece of gear in this game is unique and can be upgraded extensively, so that when you find a piece of gear, you're excited and you celebrate it. I doubt that'll happen, but whatever. And then it can stay with you for quite a long time. Gear can be quite viable for a long time, so it's a different approach than Origins and Odyssey. I do find myself curious to find out more about that. I don't really care too much about how the gear system is tracked, but I'm curious as to whether or not the upgrade system will be similar to Origins and Odyssey, where it requires absurd amounts of materials for which you could build a fucking skyscraper just to upgrade a sword to your level. Obviously, since it's no longer a numerical linear leveling system, but instead a power rating, I would be keen to find out what those upgrades actually entail, and how much running around doing shit all do I need to do to be able to upgrade it. Also, does unique mean that there are so many different options that they can be randomly generated, so you'll never find the same piece of gear twice? So they have different stats, perks, and etc., but maybe they look the same or somewhat similar, or are they actually unique, which is a lot less likely in an open world RPG. I will be honest, I don't care too much about this, so it's whatever really. But I do like the idea of gear having some form of value. I feel like this is one of those things that isn't too important, so we'll find out more when we play the game ourselves, but maybe we'll find out more when they show gameplay. And that brings us to the conclusion of all the talking points in this video. Fascinating as some of it sounds, I do think it's important that we remember that we are still yet to see a proper gameplay demo for this game. We still don't know how it plays. And considering that that hasn't happened yet, we're getting an absurd amount of information. And a lot of it makes limited sense at the moment, as we haven't actually seen any footage that we can compare it to, besides from this short trailer that doesn't show very much. But I'm confident that we'll see more in the coming months, and I'm quite happy to wait for that. Though there are some pieces of information that I'm not too sure about, I can chalk that down to the fact that I haven't seen the game in action properly yet. And at the same time, a lot of the information about this game does sound pretty promising. But let me know what you think about this stuff down in the comments section. So, thank you all for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to go ahead, leave a like, subscribe, share the channel with your friends and all that wonderful stuff, that would be fantastic. And with any luck, I will see you very soon with another video at some point. But until then, goodbye.